been working with Florentine Films for 6 years now this year. I first came to Florentine in 2016 as an intern. Years later, they randomly called me back and they're like, we'd love for you to be on the Muhammad Ali team. And so I was like, yeah, of course. And I immediately quit my other job and, and moved. And then of course I worked on Leonardo da Vinci. As a team, we all see Leonardo da Vinci as a truly modern man. The way he used his intelligence in conjunction with his creativity is what allowed for that. It's what allowed for so much potential. So sure, maybe he didn't invent the helicopter, but he was able to have the idea that, hey, we can fly, and sketch out the mechanics of how he thought that might look. If you look at what he made, what he sketched out, and look at, hundreds of years later, how the helicopter was invented, he was not far off at all. In that sense, he's a very modern figure from the 1400s. It's incredible. We definitely did feel this responsibility to make a film that was as creative and as curious and beautiful as Leonardo viewed the world. Leonardo worked across so many fields, and all of his ideas were very complex. We used archival, I would say a bit, to break down these very complex subjects. And so we're breaking down these concepts literally for the audience so that they can just begin to understand what Leonardo was working with. As we showed our archival content next to his in our split screens, we tried to show symmetry, which is what we think, how he viewed the world. Why did he draw things the way he did? What was he thinking? That's what we're trying to get at when we're showing the split screen. This is the symmetry that he saw between leaves and veins, human veins. There's a point where we show an ornithopter sketch that he had made and then show bird and its wing extended. And you can see the clear symmetry. Sourcing all of our content really started with Leonardo. It was so many spreadsheets listing down, okay, let's start off. What were the 1415 paintings that we know, he finished? Let's gather those. Then it was, okay, now what are these 4,000 plus notebook pages that we know he had? Let's gather those. And then from there saying, okay, let's take his codex on the flight of birds. We wanted to really exemplify what he was interested in, what his curiosity was. And that's in truly the flight of birds. And so we had to find archival material that was maybe birds flying in slow motion, so you can really see the breakdown of the wings, so you can really see what Leonardo was seeing. That's why I say all the archival material really was inspired by Leonardo's material. God, we got so much from Bridgeman alone. Hundreds of images from Bridgeman. Bridgeman Images was definitely one of those. It was probably the biggest one, definitely, of Leonardo da Vinci. It was just so convenient to have all of these collected Leonardo materials right at our disposal. And to be able to communicate with Royal Collection through Bridgeman was such a relief. It was, Bridgeman acted as our liaison, and it was wonderful, and it made our lives simpler, and literal hundreds of images came straight through Bridgeman Images, and that was really helpful for us. 2 out of the 3 depictions that we have of Leonardo da Vinci today came through Bridgeman. It was a big concern at first, at least for me, of how are we gonna talk about this man, Leonardo, for 4 hours when we only have 3 depictions of him in total. And so being able to have 2 of those 3 from Bridgeman and being able to reuse them in the film as we did over the 4 hours, that was really important. That really mattered. And so we're very happy that worked out. This film made me learn to appreciate how you can tell a story without being so on the nose, like how to look outside the box, because generally we have still images of whatever time period we're talking about. It's rather easy to say, okay, we're talking about this event. Let's pull in still images of the event. Let's use those in that scene. And so Leonardo really did force us to think outside of that, and because that material simply wasn't there. It was such a learning experience in the sense that I feel like we all truly learned to embody Leonardo some and stop seeing so many distinctions between everything, and instead just using material in a way that was universal. I think that there's a theme of the human experience that runs through all of Ken's films, all of Florentine Films films. There's always this theme of the human experience. And then we come to Leonardo, who's our first non-American figure. He literally is trying to live the human experience in such a unique and real way. And he's not just taking in all of the sense and sights. He's documenting it for us, literally. He was the perfect figure for us to pick. I learned so much about the Renaissance and art and how to interpret art. I have a newfound appreciation for art after making this film that I never had before. I would encourage other filmmakers to open themselves to more possibilities. I think it's important to not always be so on the nose with your archival imagery. Just because you're talking about perhaps your lead character in your film does not necessarily mean you have to see them. There were a million times over and over again that we proved this in Leonardo da Vinci. You can see your character through another lens. You have to sometimes decide to just challenge yourself as a filmmaker. I just encourage filmmakers to not box themselves in with your archive. Think outside the box a little.